Hi, this is Maggie from Crafts the Charm. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm so glad you're here. In a recent video, I knit this cabled pillow with a heart pattern, and I believe the original pattern where I got this heart part on the internet had an error in it. And I learned a lot from that error, so I wanted to share what I had learned from that today. In the past, when I've knit cabling projects on this channel, the cables have been really simple, like in this scarf, which I use as a table runner, or for example, this is a wasp's nest pattern, but the cabling is really simple, symmetrical, and repetitive. So when you're doing a cable knit like this, you're always knitting the same, in this case, 6 stitches in a row. So these 6 and these 6, the ones that are going to be cabled, and then you're doing something else on the side. In this case, I was doing a garter, but you could do a reverse. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was doing a reverse stockinette. So you're always knitting those 6. So the cabling pattern is symmetrical. You knit on this side the same 6 stitches, you purl on the other side the same 6 stitches. You're always putting 3 on the cabling needle, and the way I did this one, I always held to the front or the back, depending on which side it was. So really simple. So when I saw the pattern for the heart, this is the pattern I printed from the internet, and I'll include a link to it in the description. I think the site is newstitchaday.com. It had putting different numbers of stitches on the cabling needle, like right here, 3/1. There's 3/2 here, and then in other places, 3/3. So that was new to me, and sometimes you're purling the stitch that's on the cabling needle. That was also new to me. Now, the mistake, I think, that was not here in this pattern, the mistake was that all of these different stitches weren't described here, and I don't think they were correct. Probably this part is, but I'd never heard of that before. But when it says slip 3 stitches to the cabling needle, it always says that. I think it's probably a copy-paste error. You're not. Sometimes you're putting 1 or 2 stitches on the cabling needle. So I want to show you my original knit where I was practicing with it, the mistake that I made. So here's my mistake. My mistake was that I took a guess based on an assumption about how to fix the pattern. In other words, how to interpret these descriptions that weren't quite right. And that was based on the assumption that the right side should be symmetrical. So what I ended up with is, you can see that the heart looks okay over here, but over here there's a sort of a glitch in it. Mistake there. And I again made a guess to fix the pattern and got it wrong, and then I really had to figure out how to fix the pattern. So I really had to figure out what was going on, and I feel like I learned a lot. I love mistakes for that reason, because quite often they are based on an assumption that you're making that's incorrect, and once you uncover that incorrect assumption, you know a lot more about whatever it is that you are trying to do. So in the process of just putting this video together, I watched some videos on cabling, and I wasn't sure what would be a good color. Dark green may not have been a good color. But what I wanted to show you too is something I saw about how to be tidy on this side of your cable. So when you're switching from a knit stitch to a purl stitch, and then going back. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to show you what I learned from the error in the pattern. So first of all, I'm just going to quickly knit the wrong side of this because I think I want to show you the right side first. Okay. And it looks like we need to cable again. All right, so here's the trick I learned first. So I have a garter selvage here. It might be a little challenge to knit up in the air like this. Now I'm going to switch to a purl. So this trick that I learned is when you're switching from a knit to a purl, and I'm doing it on the edges too, not just around my cables. So the problem is that we have a whole lot of extra yarn because we've got all this yarn that we're bringing to the front, and this causes ladders. And the solution, well, one solution is to pull it tight, which is what I did with my heart pillow. But the other solution, which I really wanted to try, is instead of going over, I guess that's counterclockwise, the needle for your purl stitch, is to go under clockwise for that first purl, and then do the rest of the purls normally. Now I think I need to cable here. This one you're going to notice I'm going to do a little weird, and we'll see on the back why I'm knitting into the back of that stitch. Okay, so here's the end of my cable stitches, my knit. I'm going to a purl, so again, I'm going to do that same thing. Bring the yarn over and pull it tight, but when I go into purl, instead of going over, I'm going to go under for the first purl stitch, and then I'll do the others normally. Okay, so on the back, we also have to make a little bit of an adjustment because we've ended up putting the yarn on the needle twisted. So do our selvage. And then the 4 stitches that we purled normally on the other side. Look at, you can see this one's backwards, this 5th one. And so that's why we're going to knit into the back foot of the one that we did clockwise on the front. Oops. Okay, and I've been doing the same thing on the back too. This is my first purl. So I'm going to do that one clockwise and then do the other 5 the correct way. And I think you could write this into your pattern, but I feel like it's easy enough to see when you've done your stitch that way. I have to count because I'm talking. Okay, one more. And now we're back to knitting, but there was one of these that I did backwards too. This one, between the selvage and that background. So you can see that it's just slightly slanted differently from the others. Very hard for me to do this in midair. Okay. All right, so that was one thing which I learned from other YouTubers. So happy that knitting experts have made such wonderful videos. Now I want to show you what I learned from the pattern and how I think it can inform making your own knitting pattern. All right, so I'm going to go over this with Sharpie so it's more visible. This is 20 stitches, which is the same width that I have here, and I'm going to have the selvage edge. So 2 selvage, and then purl 5, and that's going to be a reverse stockinette border on either side of the cable, and then knit 6, purl 5. Okay, but suppose we want to do something that isn't just a cable just up the middle, but we want to do something like the heart pattern where the cables are going out. And sometimes you'll see a pattern where, you know, the cables go out and then they come back and cross and go out and come back. So if we were going to do something like that. So first of all, that's the right side. I'm going to leave a space just because the Sharpie's kind of fat. So again, we would do the selvage, and then on the wrong side, of course, we'd knit 6. So the wrong side, if you're doing stockinette, you're just going to knit where you purl and purl where you knit. So purl 6. That's supposed to be a 5. Knit 5. Very messy. Apologies. Okay, so that's a wrong side. Now, I'm going to switch to pencil for a minute. So, well, actually, no, we'll cable first, then we'll switch to pencil. Okay, so on the right side again, we'll do a cable to start our movement outwards. So again, we'll purl 5. Let's say do a cable 3 front, which when I say that, I don't know if that's correct. I mean, hold 3 to the front, knit 3, then knit the 3 on the cabling needle, and purl 5. Okay, so again, the reverse side straightforward knit. Let's see if I can write the numbers correctly this time. Purl 6, knit 5, and selvage. Okay, now I'm going to switch to pencil. Now, suppose what we want now is to start pulling our cables out. So where previously I had knit these 3 and these 3, I want those 2 in the middle to be purled, and I want to knit these 3 and these 3. So basically I'm swapping a purl from the outside of the cable to the inside and moving the knits out. So this is what I want in that row when it's done, which means I can figure out the reverse. So I'm going to figure out the back of it right now. So on the back now I'm going to knit 4 and then purl 3, knit 2, purl 3, knit 4, and then my selvage. But how do I move the cables out? Well, I'm going to take that first stitch and I'm going to put it on the cabling needle and hold it to the back. That will bring the knit stitches forward. So the way I write that makes sense to me is this one goes onto the cabling needle, held to the back, and we purl it. And then we knit the next 3 stitches off of the needle. Then we're doing a similar thing here. These are the 3 right here that were knit before. So we're going to take those 3 and put them onto the cabling needle and hold them to the front. And before we knit them, because they're on the cabling needle, we're going to purl one off of the needle. So I think if you start with where you want the stitches to be before you play with the cabling needle, then you can figure out how to pull them out. And if you start with where you want the stitches to be, then you can write the back side. And then you can also confirm, well, those 3 knit stitches are going to be moved over there, and those are the ones that we purl on the back. And these 3 knit stitches are moved there, and those are the ones we'll purl on the back, and these 2 purl stitches go in there. So let's do it again. Let's pull them out one further. So in the middle we want 4 purls, which means on the wrong side in the middle we'll have 4 knits, and our cables will be on either side. So this is where we would knit. But our cable from the prior row is one in from that. So we can do the same thing. This one we're going to take onto the needle, hold to the back, and once we finally work it, we're going to purl it. And these 3 on the needle will knit. It's on the needle. Purl 2, just on the needle, and then hold 3 onto the needle to the front, the cabling needle, purl, so we end up with a purl on the inside, the one on the needle, and then we'll knit those 3 from the front. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to knit through this row, and I'll speed up the video because those are all relatively straightforward, I think. Okay, now we're to our first row where we're going to move the cables out. And as always, start with the 2 selvage. Switch to purling, but instead of 5, it will be 4 now. Now we're going to put 1 on the needle. This is the one that's going to end up in the middle, and hold it to the back. And we're going to knit 3, that's our cable, moving outward now. And now we purl that stitch off the needle because it's part of our background now. And now we're going to hold 3 to the front. This is our other side of the cable. Purl 1, and then knit the 3 off the needle. Purl another 4, and knit our selvage. Not easy to see. Hopefully it'll be easier to see when we get around to the next one. So I'm just going to do the back, which I have in Sharpie here, and then we'll do the next one. See if it's a little more visible. Okay, now our second new row. Knit 2 for the selvage. Now we'll only purl 3. And again, we're going to take a stitch and pull it to the back on our cabling needle to become part of the center. Knit 3 off our needle. Purl that stitch. And then we're going to purl 2 that are in the center, the ones we put there before. Take 3 off the needle and bring them to the front. Purl this one off the needle. Knit the 3 off the cabling needle. And then purl 3. And knit 2. Okay, so let's do the back of that row, just so it's even a little bit more visible. So I'll do that quickly. You'll notice too that there's a lot more knitting into the back of stitches because I'm doing a lot more with that technique that should tighten up our cables. There. So you can see we've opened up this space in the middle and our cables are starting to move outward. There, that lighting's better. So that was really an eye-opener for me, figuring out that you should write what you want it to look like when you're done, where you want the knit and purl stitches to be, and then do your wrong side from that, and then go back and modify it to figure out how you're going to employ the cabling needle to hold something to the back or the front, back for the background, front for your cables, at least for this pattern. I can't speak for all patterns. And knit it properly so you end up with the stitches in the place that you expect once you're done. Well, if you have something to add to that, I would love for you to tell me in the comments. I am a beginner knitter, so this is all really new to me, and I was really excited to learn these things about cabling. I hope it's interesting to you too. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.